Black woman missed her flight to help a lost teen, but her kindness changed their future. The terminal bustled with early morning travelers, a symphony of rolling suitcases and hurried footsteps against polished floors. Amara Wilson stood at gate B-17, her boarding pass clutched tightly between manicured fingers as she watched the final passengers filing onto her flight to Chicago. This presentation could make or break her career, 15 years of climbing the corporate ladder at Meridian Financial, fighting twice as hard as her colleagues for half the recognition. The promotion to senior vice president was finally within reach. Final boarding call for Flight 2187 to Chicago O'Hare. All remaining passengers please proceed to gate B-17 immediately. Amara checked her watch, 7:42 a.m. Her flight departed at 8:00 and the board meeting started at 11:30. She'd scheduled everything perfectly, accounting for the 20-minute taxi ride from O'Hare to downtown. The presentation materials were meticulously prepared, backed by months of research and late nights. She took a deep breath and stepped toward the gate. That's when she noticed him, a teenage boy with slumped shoulders standing near the information desk, repeatedly checking his phone with increasing panic. His oversized hoodie couldn't disguise how young he was, maybe 15 or 16. Tears welled in his eyes as he approached the busy attendant who barely glanced up before pointing him toward customer service. "Ma'am, we're closing the gate now," the flight attendant called to Amara. The boy walked away from the desk, his hands trembling. He seemed utterly lost, completely alone in the crowded airport. Amara hesitated, one foot already on the jet bridge. Behind her was a boy in trouble. Ahead lay her career-defining moment. The flight attendant reached for the door. "Wait," Amara said, stepping back. "I need a minute." "Ma'am, we can't hold the flight. You need to board now or we'll have to leave without you." Amara looked at her boarding pass, then at the boy who had now slumped against a wall, head in his hands. She made a decision that would alter the course of multiple lives. "I'm sorry, I won't be boarding today." "Hey there." Amara approached the boy cautiously, her carry-on rolling behind her. "I couldn't help noticing you seem upset. Are you okay?" The boy looked up, hastily wiping tears from his reddened eyes. "I'm fine," he muttered, though his voice cracked with the lie. "I'm Amara," she said, keeping a respectful distance. "I work in finance, which basically means I solve problems all day. Maybe I can help with whatever's going on." The boy hesitated, sizing her up with the wariness of someone who'd learned not to trust easily. "Jason," he finally offered. "I missed my connecting flight and my phone's about to die and I can't reach my dad," and his voice caught as the words tumbled out. "Slow down," Amara said gently. "One problem at a time. Where are you trying to go?" "Seattle. I was visiting my mom in Boston, but now I'm supposed to be flying back to my dad's." Jason's voice hardened slightly at the mention of his parents. "They're divorced. I'm part of their stupid custody arrangement." "I see," Amara nodded, recognizing the familiar bitterness of a child caught between fractured parents. "And when was your connecting flight?" "Last night. I fell asleep in the wrong terminal and woke up this morning." Jason's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "The airline said they can't get me on another flight until tomorrow and I can't afford a hotel. My dad's gonna kill me." Amara's eyes softened. She just sacrificed her own flight for this stranger, a teenager with nowhere to go and no one to help him. The irony wasn't lost on her. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, probably Marcus, her assistant, wondering why she wasn't responding to his texts about the Chicago meeting. "Let me see what I can do," she said, making a decision. "First, let's charge your phone and get something to eat. Everything's clearer on a full stomach." As they walked toward the food court, Amara discreetly sent a text to Marcus. "Not making the meeting. Family emergency. Please distribute the presentation deck and apologize to the board. I'll call later." Her thumb hovered over the send button for just a moment before pressing it. 15 years of perfect attendance and unwavering dedication, and she was throwing it away for a stranger. But looking at Jason's dejected form walking beside her, something told her this was exactly where she needed to be. "2 breakfast combos, please," Amara said to the cashier at the airport diner, then guided Jason to a booth by the window where planes taxied across the morning tarmac. "You didn't have to do this," Jason mumbled, though his eyes betrayed his hunger as the server placed a steaming plate before him. "Consider it a business investment," Amara smiled. "I'm betting that once we solve this problem, you'll pay it forward someday." Jason's phone charged in the wall outlet beside them, and between bites of scrambled eggs, he explained his situation more fully. His parents had divorced 3 years ago, his mother in Boston pursuing a medical career, his father in Seattle running a small construction company. Jason spent school years with his dad and summers with his mom, an arrangement that left him feeling like luggage shipped between coasts. "Dad works all the time," Jason said, pushing hash browns around his plate. "Mom's always at the hospital. Neither of them really has time for me." "That sounds incredibly difficult," Amara said, recognizing the pain behind his casual tone. "I grew up with a single mom who worked 3 jobs. I used to think she didn't have time for me either." "What changed?" Jason asked, looking up from his plate. "I grew up," Amara said simply, "and I realized how much she sacrificed for me. But at your age, I felt exactly how you feel now." As they ate, Amara learned that Jason was 16, a junior in high school with a talent for computer programming. He developed several small games and dreamed of working for a major tech company someday. "What about you?" Jason asked, seeming genuinely curious. "Where were you flying to?" Amara hesitated, the weight of her missed opportunity settling on her shoulders. "Chicago. I was supposed to present a major investment strategy to our board today. I've been working toward this moment for years." Jason's eyes widened. "Wait, you missed your flight because of me?" "I made a choice," Amara corrected him. "One I don't regret. But your job will still be there tomorrow," she said with more confidence than she felt. "Right now, let's focus on getting you home." After breakfast, they found an airline customer service desk with a shorter line. While they waited, Amara's phone rang her boss, Elena Rhodes. With an apologetic smile to Jason, she stepped aside to answer. "Amara, what's happening? The board is asking where you are." "I had a family emergency," Amara replied, the half-truth feeling strange on her tongue. "I couldn't make the flight." "This presentation was your idea." Elena's voice was tight with disappointment. "You've been pushing for this investment shift for months. The board specifically requested you present it." "I know," Amara closed her eyes. "I'm sorry, Marcus has all the materials. He can walk them through it." "Marcus is your assistant, not a senior strategist. This doesn't look good, Amara." The unspoken implication hung heavy in the air. This could cost her the promotion. "I understand. I'll accept whatever consequences come from this, but I had to make this choice." After a long pause, Elena sighed. "We'll talk when you're back in the office." The call ended abruptly. Amara took a steadying breath before returning to Jason, who was watching her with a guilty expression. "That was about the meeting, wasn't it?" he asked. "Nothing for you to worry about," Amara assured him. "Let's focus on getting you home." At the customer service desk, they discovered that all direct flights to Seattle were fully booked for the next 2 days. "There's a flight to Portland tomorrow morning," the agent offered. "From there, it's just a few hours to Seattle by train or bus." "That could work," Amara nodded, "but he still needs somewhere to stay tonight." "I can just hang around the airport," Jason suggested quickly. "Absolutely not," Amara said firmly. "That's how you ended up in this situation in the first place." A bold idea formed in her mind, one that went against all conventional wisdom about boundaries with strangers. But something about this kid, his vulnerability mixed with quiet resilience, resonated with her. "Jason, I live about 30 minutes from here. You could stay at my place tonight and I'll bring you back for the Portland flight tomorrow morning." The look of shock on his face mirrored her own internal surprise at the offer. "You'd let me stay at your house? You don't even know me." "I know enough," Amara said with certainty. "You're a kid who needs help and I'm in a position to provide it. Sometimes life is that simple." But as they walked toward the airport exit, Amara wondered if she was making the biggest mistake of her life, both professionally and personally. Yet somehow, it still felt like the right thing to do. Amara's condo in the historic district of downtown Atlanta wasn't what Jason had expected. He'd imagined a stuffy, immaculate space with contemporary furniture and abstract art, the kind of place featured in lifestyle magazines. Instead, her home was warm and lived in, with walls painted deep blue and shelves lined with books and travel souvenirs. Family photos showed a younger Amara with an older woman who had the same determined eyes. "Your mom?" Jason asked, pointing to one of the photos. "Yes," Amara smiled. "Elaine Wilson, strongest person I've ever known. She passed away 5 years ago." "I'm sorry," Jason said, suddenly self-conscious about his complaints regarding his own parents. "She'd like you," Amara said, setting down her keys. "She always had a soft spot for anyone who needed help, made me promise to do the same." While Jason showered, Amara called his father. The conversation was tense at first. A stranger calling about his son naturally raised alarms, but Amara's calm professionalism eventually put Mr. Reynolds at ease. She explained the situation, provided her credentials, and assured him that Jason would be on a flight to Portland the next day. "I can't thank you enough," Mr. Reynolds said, his voice thick with both relief and guilt. "I should be there for him. These custody arrangements, they're hard on everyone." "He's a good kid," Amara said. "You should be proud." Sometimes I wonder if he knows that, came the quiet response. After Jason emerged from the shower wearing a clean t-shirt Amara had purchased from the airport gift shop, she handed him her iPad. Your dad wants to FaceTime with you. I'll give you some privacy. Jason's conversation with his father was stilted at first, filled with awkward pauses and tense explanations. But as Amara prepared dinner in the kitchen, she could hear the tone shifting, becoming gentler, more honest. I know, Dad. I should have been more careful. Yeah, she's been really nice. No, I'm okay, really. I miss you too. Over dinner pasta with a sauce Amara's mother had taught her to make Jason seemed more relaxed. They talked about his interest in programming, and Amara shared stories from her early days in finance. How did you know what you wanted to do? Jason asked, twirling spaghetti around his fork. I didn't, not at first, Amara admitted. I was good with numbers, and finance offered stability, something my mother never had. The passion came later when I realized I could help people secure their futures. My dad wants me to join his construction company, Jason said, his voice flat. He doesn't get that I'd rather code than build actual buildings. Have you told him that? He doesn't listen. Neither of them do. Amara considered this. Sometimes people don't listen because they're afraid of what they'll hear. Your dad might worry that your interests will take you further away from him. I never thought about it like that, Jason said quietly. After dinner, Amara set up the sofa bed in her office and provided Jason with fresh towels and a new toothbrush. As she was about to leave him for the night, he spoke up. That meeting in Chicago, was it really important? Amara paused in the doorway. Yes, she said honestly, it was. Then why did you help me instead? The question hung in the air between them, simple yet profound. Because 15 years from now I won't remember that meeting, Amara said slowly. But I would have remembered the boy I didn't help. As she closed the door, Amara's phone buzzed with an email from a leaner. Board meeting rescheduled for next week. Your presence required. No exceptions. A reprieve, not a pardon. She had 1 week to salvage her professional reputation. Yet somehow, as she prepared for bed, that didn't seem like the most important thing anymore. Morning light filtered through Amara's bedroom curtains, rousing her earlier than her alarm. For a moment she lay still, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of another person moving quietly through her home. Then the events of the previous day came rushing back, the missed flight, the stranded teenager, the disappointed voice of her boss. She found Jason already dressed and sitting at her kitchen counter, scrolling through his phone. Good morning, she said, heading for the coffee maker. Sleep okay? Better than an airport chair, he offered with a small smile. Thanks for, everything. As Amara prepared breakfast simple omelets with the vegetables she had on hand, Jason showed her some of his programming projects. His eyes lit up as he explained the game he was developing, his fingers flying across the screen to demonstrate various features. This is seriously impressive, Amara said, genuinely amazed. You've taught yourself all of this, mostly from online tutorials and forums. Jason shrugged, though pride crept into his voice. Dad thinks it's just me playing around. Should see this, Amara said, handing him a plate. You have real talent. Jason's phone buzzed with a text from his father, checking in before his workday started. As they ate, Amara noticed how Jason's responses to his father had shifted from monosyllabic answers to more engaged replies. He wants to know if I'll be okay on the train from Portland, Jason said, looking up from his phone. Tell him I've already looked up the schedule. There's an Amtrak that leaves an hour after your flight arrives. I've written everything down for you. Jason nodded, typing the response. After a pause, he added, he says to thank you again, and he wants to know how he can repay you. Amara considered this. Tell him I don't need repayment, but if he wants to do something, he could take a day off work when you get home. Maybe you could show him that game you're working on. Jason looked skeptical, but typed the message anyway. His eyes widened slightly at the response. He says okay, he'll take Friday off. See. Sometimes people can surprise you, Amara said, clearing their plates. We should head to the airport soon. Your flight's at 10:30. As they drove to the airport, the morning rush hour traffic crawling along the interstate, Jason grew quieter, retreating into himself. Nervous about the flight? Amara asked, glancing over. No, it's just. Jason hesitated. After today, I'll probably never see you again, right? The question caught Amara off guard. In the whirlwind of the past 24 hours, she hadn't considered the temporary nature of their connection. That doesn't have to be the case, she said carefully. We could exchange emails, check in occasionally. Why would you want to do that? You've already done more than enough. Because I care what happens to you, Amara said simply. That doesn't just stop because you get on a plane. Jason looked out the window, processing this. My programming teacher at school, Ms. Chen, she says I should apply for this summer coding camp in Atlanta. But it's expensive, and I'd need somewhere to stay, so I didn't even mention it to my parents. Send me the details, Amara said without hesitation. Maybe I can help figure something out. At the airport, Amara walked Jason to security, making sure he had his boarding pass, ID, and the written instructions for navigating his connection in Portland. Remember to charge your phone before the flight, she reminded him, and text your dad when you land. I will, Jason nodded, suddenly awkward. So I guess this is it. Amara surprised both of them by pulling him into a quick hug. This isn't it, Jason. This is just the beginning of something. I'm not sure what yet, but definitely something. As Jason disappeared through the security checkpoint, Amara felt an unexpected sense of loss. This stranger who had disrupted her carefully planned life had somehow, in less than a day, carved out a space in her heart. Her phone rang Alina again. Taking a deep breath, Amara answered, ready to face the consequences of her choice. I'm heading to the office now, she said by way of greeting. I can explain everything. Actually, Alina said, her voice uncharacteristically gentle, that's not why I'm calling. Marcus showed me your presentation yesterday. The board was impressed, Amara. They've agreed to implement your strategy. That's wonderful news, Amara stammered, leaning against a nearby column for support. There's more, Alina continued. I told them about your family emergency. They appreciated your priorities. In fact, Roger Thompson specifically mentioned that it showed exactly the kind of values Meridian needs in its leadership. What are you saying, Alina? I'm saying the SVP position is still yours to lose, Amara. Just don't make a habit of missing flights. As the call ended, Amara stood motionless in the bustling terminal, travelers flowing around her like water around a stone. The career opportunity she'd feared losing was still within reach, yet somehow it didn't feel like the most significant development in her life anymore. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jason. Made it through security. Thanks again for everything. I mean it. Amara smiled, typing back. Safe travels. This isn't goodbye. As she walked toward the airport exit, Amara realized that by missing one flight, she might have just discovered an entirely new destination, one not marked on any map or schedule, but perhaps more meaningful than she could have imagined. 3 months passed. Spring bloomed across Atlanta, painting the city in vibrant greens and colorful flowers. Amara's promotion to senior vice president at Meridian Financial had been finalized, complete with a corner office overlooking Centennial Olympic Park. The view was spectacular, but it wasn't what drew her gaze on this particular Thursday afternoon. On her computer screen, an email from Jason Reynolds displayed a formal application to the Atlanta Summer Coding Academy, complete with a recommendation letter from his computer science teacher, Ms. Chen. He's one of the most talented young programmers I've encountered in 15 years of teaching, the letter read. His recent game development project won first place in our regional STEM competition, and his dedication to improving his skills is exemplary. Beside the application was a separate email from Robert Reynolds, Jason's father. Ms. Wilson, Jason finally told me about the coding camp in Atlanta. I was resistant at first. Spending summer away from home seemed like another disruption. But after taking your advice and actually sitting down to see his work, I've realized this is his passion. If the offer still stands for him to stay with you during the 6-week program, I'd be grateful. I can contribute to expenses, of course. His relationship with his mother and me remains complicated, but we're both trying harder to listen. I believe we have you to thank for that wake-up call. Robert, Amara smiled, remembering her weekly video calls with Jason over the past months. She'd watched him gradually open up, his initial guardedness giving way to enthusiasm as he shared his coding projects and school achievements. He'd even started talking more about his parents, acknowledging their efforts to be more present in his life. A knock on her office door interrupted her thoughts. Alina stood in the doorway, impeccably dressed as always. The Thompson account files you requested, she said, placing a folder on Amara's desk. Her eyes drifted to the computer screen. Summer plans. Of sorts, Amara replied. Remember that family emergency from a few months back? The one that nearly cost you this office, hard to forget. Amara turned the screen so Alina could see Jason's photo on the application. This is Jason. He was a teenager stranded at the airport the day of my Chicago presentation. I missed my flight helping him. Alina's eyebrows rose. You missed a career-defining meeting for a stranger. At the time, yes. Now he's. Mara paused, searching for the right words. He's become important to me. He's staying with me this summer for a coding program. That's quite a development, Alina said carefully. Isn't there potential for complications? You're not family. Sometimes family is who you choose, Amara said. My mother used to say that. I never fully understood until now. Alina studied her for a moment. Well, I suppose life rarely follows our carefully structured plans. Will this affect your work schedule? Not at all. The program runs during business hours, and I've already arranged to adjust my hours slightly to accommodate drop-offs and pickups. Very well, Alina nodded, turning to leave. At the door, she paused. For what it's worth, Amara, I think you made the right choice that day. Not many would have. After Alina left, Amara turned back to her computer and began typing her response to both Jason and his father. The room is ready whenever Jason is. The Coding Academy has already accepted his application. Apparently, his portfolio was exceptional. As for staying with me, I'd be honored to host him. No contribution necessary, Robert. This is my gift, looking forward to June 15th. Amara, she hit send, then opened her calendar to block off the afternoon of June 15th for airport pickup. As she did so, her phone buzzed with an incoming call, her financial advisor. Amara, I've reviewed the investment options for that property you inquired about, he began without preamble. The 3-bedroom house near Piedmont Park is definitely within your budget, especially with your new salary. But I have to ask, are you sure about taking on a mortgage for a larger place? Your condo is perfect for a single professional. Amara looked at the photo of the craftsman-style house she'd bookmarked on her real estate app. With its spacious rooms and backyard garden, it was far more than she needed for herself alone. But when she imagined Jason having his own room during summers, and perhaps other young people someday, kids who needed a temporary haven or just someone who believed in them, the extra space made perfect sense. I'm sure, she said confidently. Life has a way of filling the space you create for it. After ending the call, Amara stood and walked to her office window. Below, Atlanta pulsed with midday activity. People hurrying to meetings, tourists exploring the park, students lounging on benches with open laptops. All of them moving through intersecting paths, their lives touching briefly before continuing onward. 3 months ago, her path had crossed with Jason's for what should have been a fleeting moment. Instead, it had become a junction point, altering both their trajectories in ways neither could have anticipated. One missed flight had somehow opened up destinations she'd never considered. Her assistant's voice came through the intercom. Your 3:00 p.m. is here, Ms. Wilson. Send them in, Amara replied, turning from the window. As she prepared to focus on the meeting ahead, she couldn't help but wonder how many other potential connections passed by unnoticed every day, how many lives might change if people simply stopped long enough to see each other. Summer arrived with Atlanta's characteristic heat and humidity. Amara's new house, purchased just 2 weeks before Jason's arrival, still had boxes waiting to be unpacked in several rooms. But the guest bedroom, Jason's room for the summer, was fully furnished, right down to the desk she'd selected specifically for his coding projects. The Atlanta airport felt different this time as Amara waited at arrivals. No rush of adrenaline from a missed flight, no crisis to manage. Just anticipation as she watched for a now familiar face among the deplaning passengers. Jason spotted her first, his wave more confident than she remembered. He'd grown at least an inch since she'd seen him last, and his hair was cut shorter. But his smile, that was exactly the same. Welcome to Atlanta, Amara said as they hugged. Official this time, not just the inside of an airport and my old condo. Thanks for doing this, Jason said, suddenly serious. Dad wanted to come too to meet you properly, but he couldn't get away from the job site. There will be other opportunities, Amara assured him, taking one of his bags. How was the flight? No missed connections this time, Jason grinned. And I actually stayed awake. As they drove through the city toward her new home, Amara pointed out landmarks: the Coca-Cola headquarters, Georgia Tech's campus, the entrance to the coding academy he'd be attending. Jason took it all in, asking questions about the program and the city. Dad said you moved to a house? That's a big change. I decided it was time for more space, Amara said simply. My priorities have shifted a bit these past few months. Because of me? Jason asked, a hint of his old wariness returning. Partially, Amara acknowledged. But also because I realized I'd been living as though my career was the only thing that mattered. Meeting you reminded me there's more to life than boardrooms and investment strategies. Jason seemed to consider this. My dad's different now. He asks about my programming projects. He even downloaded one of my games on his phone. That's wonderful, Amara smiled. Sometimes people just need a nudge to see what's been in front of them all along. When they arrived at the house, Jason paused on the front walkway, taking in the broad porch with its ceiling fan and comfortable seating. This is yours. It's like something from a movie. Ours for the summer, Amara corrected him, unlocking the front door. Make yourself at home. Inside, the house was bright with afternoon sunlight streaming through tall windows. The living room opened into a kitchen with new appliances and a breakfast nook surrounded by windows overlooking the backyard. Upstairs, Jason's room featured blue walls and a built-in bookshelf already stocked with programming books Amara had ordered. "You did all this for me?" Jason asked, setting his laptop on the desk. "I wanted you to have a space that felt like yours," Amara said. "A place where you could create and learn." That evening, they grilled hamburgers in the backyard and ate on the deck as the sun set. Jason talked about his last few months in Seattle, the improved relationship with his father, his continued strained interactions with his mother during their weekly calls, his growing passion for game development. "Ms. Chen thinks I should apply to Georgia Tech for college," he said, watching fireflies begin to appear in the gathering dusk. "They have an amazing computer science program. That would put you in Atlanta," Amara observed, careful to keep her tone neutral. "How do you feel about that?" Jason was quiet for a moment. "I used to think I wanted to get as far from both my parents as possible, go to school somewhere neither of them lived, start fresh, but now I don't know. Maybe being near someone who gets me wouldn't be so bad." 2 years is a long time," Amara reminded him. "You might feel differently by then, but whatever you decide, I'll support you. Even if I decide to stay in Seattle." "Even then," she assured him. "That's what friends do." Later, as Amara washed dishes and Jason unpacked upstairs, her phone rang with a call from Alina. "Just checking that your house guest arrived safely," her boss said. "He did," Amara confirmed. "Thanks for asking. And for understanding the adjusted summer schedule. The quarterly projections you sent over this afternoon were impeccable, as usual," Alina said. "As long as your work maintains that standard, your personal life is your business." There was a pause before Alina continued, her voice softening slightly. "Though I must admit I'm curious about this situation. It's quite unconventional." "Life rarely fits into conventional boxes," Amara replied. "Sometimes you have to create new categories." "Indeed," Alina said thoughtfully. "Well, enjoy your summer arrangement. I look forward to hearing how it unfolds." As the first week progressed, Amara and Jason settled into a comfortable routine. She drove him to the coding academy each morning on her way to work, and he took public transportation back to the house in the afternoons. In the evenings, they shared meals and talked about their days. Sometimes they watched movies or took walks around the neighborhood. Other times, Jason would be absorbed in a coding project while Amara worked on investment analyses or caught up on reading. On Friday evening, Robert Reynolds called to check in. Amara put the phone on speaker so both she and Jason could participate in the conversation. "The house looks great from what Jason's shown me," Robert said. "Thank you again for opening your home to him." "It's my pleasure," Amara said sincerely. "He's good company." "How's the program so far?" Robert asked his son. "Amazing," Jason's enthusiasm was palpable. "We're learning advanced JavaScript and starting on game engine development next week. And get this, our instructor used to work at Valve. That's one of the big gaming companies, right?" Robert asked. Amara noticed the small smile that appeared on Jason's face, appreciation that his father was making an effort to understand his interests. "One of the biggest," Jason confirmed. "The instructor saw my portfolio and said I have potential. He's going to help me refine my game concept." "That's fantastic, son," Robert's pride came through clearly. "Maybe when I visit later this summer, you can show me what you're working on." The conversation continued, touching on plans for Robert's visit in August and updates about the construction company. When the call ended, Jason sat back with a thoughtful expression. "What's on your mind?" Amara asked, recognizing his contemplative look. "It's weird," Jason said slowly. "If I hadn't missed that connection, if you hadn't missed your flight, none of this would be happening right now." "Life is full of sliding doors," Amara agreed. "Moments where everything could go one way or another. Do you ever regret it, helping me that day?" Amara considered the question seriously. "Not for a second. Some choices just feel right, even when they don't make logical sense. Helping you was one of those choices." Jason nodded, seeming satisfied with her answer. "I'm going to go work on my game for a while. I had some new ideas today." As he headed upstairs, Amara found herself reflecting on the strange, wonderful journey that had led to this moment, a teenage boy feeling comfortable in her home, pursuing his passion while she supported from the sidelines. It wasn't a role she'd ever envisioned for herself, yet it fitted like a missing puzzle piece in her life. Her phone buzzed with a text from her friend Kimberly. "Drinks tomorrow." "Need to hear all about this summer guardian situation," Amara smiled, typing back. 7 p.m. works. It's not a situation, it's just life taking an unexpected turn. As she set her phone down, she could hear Jason moving around upstairs, the floorboards occasionally creaking under his footsteps. The house felt alive in a way her sleek downtown condo never had, filled with purpose beyond merely being a place to sleep between workdays. Outside, a summer storm was brewing, thunder rumbling in the distance. Amara made a mental note to check that all the windows were closed, then settled on the couch with her tablet to review work emails. This new life, balancing career and caring for someone else, was challenging in ways she hadn't anticipated. Yet with each day, the rhythm became more natural, as though she'd been preparing for it all along without realizing. The Coding Academy's Midsummer Showcase fell on a sweltering July afternoon. Amara had taken the full day off work, a rarity that had raised Alina's eyebrows but elicited no comment. The event was held in a modern building on Georgia Tech's campus, with student projects displayed throughout a large, open space filled with monitors and demonstration stations. Jason stood nervously beside his assigned booth, adjusting the display screen that showcased his game, an innovative puzzle adventure that combined complex problem-solving with a narrative about finding connection in an increasingly disconnected world. "It looks amazing," Amara reassured him, noting how the game's protagonist, a young person navigating various environments to build bridges between isolated communities, seemed to reflect Jason's own journey. "What if no one gets it?" he asked, straightening his button-down shirt, a more formal choice than his usual t-shirts and hoodies. "They will," Amara said confidently. "And even if some don't, that doesn't diminish what you've created." As attendees began filtering through the showcase, industry professionals, other students and their families, academic representatives, Jason's initial nervousness gave way to animated explanations of his work. Amara watched from a distance, pride warming her chest as she observed him confidently fielding technical questions and demonstrating gameplay features. "Your son has remarkable talent," a woman in business attire commented, stopping beside Amara. "Oh, he's not my—" Amara began automatically, then paused. How exactly should she describe their relationship? "Thank you. Yes, he does." The woman handed Amara a business card. "I'm Daria Chen from Tech Future Foundation. We provide scholarships and internship opportunities for promising young developers. I'd like to talk with him about our programs." "That would be wonderful," Amara said, accepting the card. "He's considering Georgia Tech for college. Even better, we have several partnerships with their computer science department." As Ms. Chen moved on to speak with Jason directly, Amara felt her phone vibrate. A text from Robert Reynolds. "How's the showcase going? Wish I could be there." Amara snapped a photo of Jason deep in conversation with Ms. Chen and sent it with the caption, "Brilliant. He's impressing everyone, including scholarship representatives." Robert's response came quickly. "That's my boy. Thank him for sending me the game link yesterday. I played through the first 3 levels on my lunch break. Tell him I'm stuck on the river crossing puzzle." Amara smiled at this evidence of Robert's continued efforts to engage with his son's world. She typed back, "Will do." "He'll be thrilled you're playing it." The showcase continued for another hour, with Jason's station consistently drawing interested visitors. By the end, he was flushed with excitement, clutching several business cards and program brochures. "Ms. Chen said my game concept could qualify for their summer development grant next year," he reported as they walked to Amara's car afterward. "This guy from Pixel Dreams, they're an indie game studio here in Atlanta. He asked if I'd be interested in a high school internship program during school breaks." "That's fantastic," Amara said, unlocking the car. "You've opened some important doors today." As they drove home through Atlanta's rush-hour traffic, Jason's excitement gradually gave way to a more thoughtful mood. "Everything okay?" Amara asked, glancing over at him. "Yeah, just thinking," Jason said, looking out at the city skyline. "All these opportunities are in Atlanta, but my life school, Dad, it's all in Seattle." "That does present a challenge," Amara acknowledged. "But challenges often have solutions if you look at them creatively." "Dad mentioned something about me maybe spending more time in Atlanta," Jason said carefully. "Not just summers, but maybe winter break too, if that would be okay with you." Amara felt a surge of emotion, happiness mingled with the weighty responsibility of becoming an increasingly significant presence in this young person's life. "My door is always open to you," she said simply. "For any break, any time you need a place to stay. Even when I'm in college." "Especially then," Amara assured him. "This isn't just a one-summer arrangement for me, Jason, unless you want it to be." Jason shook his head quickly. "No, he stopped, seeming to struggle with putting his feelings into words. "This summer has been the best, not just the program, but staying with you, having someone who gets me, who doesn't expect me to be something I'm not." "I feel the same way," Amara said softly. My life is richer with you in it." That evening, they celebrated with takeout from Jason's favorite Thai restaurant, eating on the back deck as fireflies performed their nightly dance in the yard. The conversation flowed easily between them, touching on everything from game development to Amara's work to plans for Robert's upcoming visit. As they cleared the dishes, Jason asked, "Do you ever think about having kids of your own?" The question caught Amara off guard. "I used to think my career was enough," she said after a moment. "That building a family would mean compromising my professional goals. And now I realize that family comes in many forms," Amara said thoughtfully. "And that some of the most meaningful connections in life aren't planned or expected. They just happen if you're open to them." Jason nodded, seeming satisfied with this answer. "My mom called yesterday," he said, changing the subject slightly. "She actually asked about my game, like specific questions about how I designed the characters. That's a first." "People can change," Amara observed. "Sometimes they just need to see things from a new perspective." "She mentioned possibly coming to Seattle for Thanksgiving," Jason continued. "It would be the first time both my parents have been in the same room since the divorce." "How do you feel about that?" Jason considered the question. "Nervous, but also kind of hopeful, like maybe we could find a way to be a family again, not like before, but something new." "That sounds like progress," Amara said encouragingly. Later that night, after Jason had gone to bed, Amara sat on the porch swing, enjoying the relative coolness that came with darkness. Her phone buzzed with a text from Alina. "Heard about a property near your house that's coming on the market. 3 bedrooms, needs work but good bones. Might be a good investment if you're thinking about expanding your real estate portfolio." Amara stared at the message, understanding the subtext. Alina, ever observant, had clearly picked up on the changes in Amara's life and priorities. "Thanks," she typed back. "Not looking to expand right now, but I appreciate the tip." Alina's response came quickly. "Just keeping options open. Never know when life might take another unexpected turn." Amara smiled, recognizing the wisdom in her boss's words. 6 months ago, she couldn't have imagined her life as it was now: a house in a residential neighborhood, a teenage boy who'd become like family staying upstairs, professional ambitions balanced with personal connections. Who could say what the next 6 months might bring? As if on cue, her phone rang with a call from Robert Reynolds. "Hope it's not too late there," he said when she answered. "Just wanted to confirm my flight details for next month's visit." "Not too late at all," Amara assured him. "Jason's going to be thrilled you're coming. He did amazingly well at the showcase today. I saw the photos you sent. He looks happy, more like the kid he used to be before the divorce." "He is happy," Amara confirmed. "And he's excited about the possibility of winter break in Atlanta, too." "About that," Robert said, his tone shifting slightly. "I've been thinking about something more formal, a kind of co-guardianship arrangement, if you'd be open to it. Nothing that would affect my parental rights, but something that would give you legal standing to make decisions for Jason when he's with you." Amara felt her breath catch. "That's a significant step, Robert." "I know," he acknowledged, "and maybe it's too soon to discuss, but Jason needs stability and you become an important part of that. I'm not asking for an answer now, just think about it." "I will," Amara promised, her mind already racing with the implications. "We can discuss it when you visit." After ending the call, Amara remained on the porch swing, gently rocking as she processed this unexpected development. Co-guardianship was indeed a significant step, one that would formalize her role in Jason's life in ways she hadn't anticipated. Yet as she considered the prospect, fear and uncertainty were outweighed by a sense of rightness. The missed flight that had brought them together now seemed less like random chance and more like a pivotal moment orchestrated by something larger than either of them. Upstairs, a light still shone from Jason's room, likely working on improvements to his game based on feedback from the showcase. In her office, financial reports awaited review before tomorrow's meeting. Her two worlds, once separate, now overlapped and enriched each other in ways she was only beginning to understand. Amara took a deep breath of the night air, filled with the scent of jasmine from the garden she'd planted. Life rarely followed a predictable path. Sometimes the most meaningful journeys began with a single choice made in an airport terminal on what should have been an ordinary Tuesday morning. August brought Robert Reynolds to Atlanta, his first visit to the city where his son was flourishing. Amara picked him up from the airport, a full-circle moment that wasn't lost on any of them. In person, Robert was taller than Amara had imagined from their video calls, with Jason's same thoughtful eyes and a weathered quality that spoke of years working outdoors. He greeted her with a firm handshake that quickly transformed into a spontaneous hug. "Thank you isn't enough," he said simply. No thanks necessary, Amara replied. Having Jason in my life has been a gift. Jason, who had insisted on coming to the airport despite having programming class that morning, stood nearby with an expression Amara couldn't quite read, something between happiness and apprehension, as though he wasn't entirely sure how these two separate parts of his life would mesh. Over the next few days, they settled into a comfortable dynamic. Robert stayed in Amara's guest room, while Jason remained in what had become undeniably his room over the summer. They explored Atlanta together, visiting the Georgia Aquarium, walking the Beltline, touring the campuses of both Georgia Tech and Emory University. On their third evening, while Jason was upstairs video chatting with friends from his Seattle high school, Robert and Amara sat on the back deck with glasses of wine. He's different here, Robert observed. More confident, more himself. Atlanta agrees with him, Amara smiled. Though I suspect the change has more to do with being seen and supported for who he really is. Robert nodded, a flash of guilt crossing his features. I wasn't always good at that. After the divorce, I was so focused on keeping the business afloat, on proving I could provide for him financially. I missed seeing what he actually needed. Parenting doesn't come with a manual, Amara said gently. We all do the best we can with the understanding we have at the time. We, Robert raised an eyebrow. Figure of speech, Amara said quickly, though they both knew it wasn't entirely true. A comfortable silence settled between them as they listened to the evening sounds, cicadas in the trees, distant laughter from neighboring yards, the occasional car passing on the street. Have you thought more about what we discussed? Robert finally asked. The co-guardianship? I have, Amara nodded. It's a big responsibility. Too big, Amara considered the question carefully. No, she said at last. Not too big. Just significant. I want to be sure it's the right thing for Jason. I've talked with him about it, Robert admitted. Not in legal terms, but about the concept of having two home bases, Seattle and Atlanta. He's more than open to it. What about his mother? Amara asked. Would she be opposed? Robert sighed. Caroline's situation is complicated. Her medical career has always come first, even before the divorce. She loves Jason, but she's never been hands-on. She's actually supportive of any arrangement that provides him with stability. And you? Amara turned to face him directly. Are you truly comfortable sharing guardianship with someone who was a stranger to you 6 months ago? You stopped being a stranger the moment you missed your flight to help my son, Robert said firmly. Some people prove themselves through years of reliability. Others do it in a single moment of choice. You did both. Inside the house, they could hear Jason coming down the stairs, his footsteps distinctive on the wooden treads. Let's talk to him together, Amara suggested. Make sure this is really what he wants. The conversation that followed was one Amara would remember for years to come, sitting in her living room with these two people who had unexpectedly become central to her life, discussing futures and possibilities, legal arrangements and practical logistics. Jason's eyes had widened when they explained the formal nature of what they were proposing. So Amara would be like, my guardian? Legally. Co-guardian, Robert clarified. I would still be your primary parent, but Amara would have legal standing to make decisions when you're with her. It would make things simpler for school breaks, medical situations, travel, that sort of thing. It's entirely your choice, Jason, Amara added. Nothing has to change if you're not comfortable with this step. Jason looked between them, his expression thoughtful. Would I get to spend more time in Atlanta? If that's what you want, Robert nodded. We could arrange for longer breaks here, maybe even a semester of school if you're interested in that gaming internship. And you'd be okay with that, with me being away from Seattle more? Robert reached over to squeeze his son's shoulder. I want you to have every opportunity to pursue your passions. If that means splitting your time between two cities, then we'll make it work. What about Mom? Jason asked. I've spoken with her, Robert said. She understands this is about providing you with additional support, not taking anything away from her role in your life. Jason turned to Amara. And you really want this, to be legally responsible for a teenager you barely know. Jason, Amara said softly, I may have only known you for a few months, but in that time you've become one of the most important people in my life. This arrangement would simply formalize what we already feel, that we're connected in a meaningful way. Jason was quiet for a long moment, processing everything. Then, with a decisiveness that reminded Amara of that first moment in the airport when he'd shown her his programming projects, he nodded. Let's do it, he said. It feels right. The rest of Robert's visit passed in a blur of activity, meeting with a family lawyer Alina had recommended, discussing the practical aspects of the arrangement, and celebrating Jason's successful completion of the Coding Academy program. By the time Robert and Jason flew back to Seattle at summer's end, The legal paperwork was in motion. As Amara drove home from the airport alone for the first time in months, her house felt unusually quiet. She wandered from room to room, noticing the small traces of Jason's presence, a programming book left on the coffee table, a hoodie hanging on the coat rack, the collection of energy drink cans he'd insisted on keeping for some future art project. Her phone rang a leaner. "The Thompson account numbers came in," her boss said without preamble. "We exceeded projections by 17%. The board is impressed." "That's excellent news," Amara said, settling onto the couch. "How are you doing with the empty nest?" Alina asked, her voice softening slightly. "It's quiet," Amara admitted, "but temporary. Jason will be back for Thanksgiving break. The co-guardianship paperwork is proceeding then? Yes, we should have everything finalized within a few weeks. It's quite a responsibility you're taking on," Alina observed, "especially as a single woman with a demanding career." "Life rarely asks if we're ready for its challenges or blessings," Amara replied. "It just presents them and trusts us to figure it out as we go." "Indeed," Alina said thoughtfully. "Well, I look forward to hearing how this unique family arrangement unfolds. And Amara, for what it's worth, I think you're making the right choice." After ending the call, Amara found herself standing in the doorway of Jason's room. They'd left it untouched, ready for his return in November. On the desk beside his external hard drive was a handwritten note. "Amara, thank you for the best summer of my life, for seeing me when I felt invisible, for showing me that family can be chosen, not just born into. I'll miss you until Thanksgiving. Keep the Wi-Fi running for our weekly calls." Jason, beneath the note was a small USB drive labeled for Amara. She plugged it into her laptop to find a simple game Jason had created just for her, a virtual simulation of their summer together, complete with pixelated versions of themselves exploring Atlanta landmarks and sharing conversations on the back deck. As she played through the game, smiling at the inside jokes and thoughtful details he'd included, Amara reflected on the extraordinary journey that had begun with a simple choice in an airport terminal. By missing one flight, she discovered connections and purpose she never could have planned, for proof that sometimes the best destinations aren't found on any scheduled itinerary. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jason. "Landed safely in Seattle. Dad says to tell you the house feels empty without you too. 78 days until Thanksgiving, not that I'm counting or anything." Amara smiled, typing back. "Every ending is just a beginning in disguise. 78 days will fly by. Call tomorrow as planned." His response came instantly. "Wouldn't miss it. Family doesn't need to share the same roof to stay connected." Family. The word resonated in Amara's heart as she set down her phone. Not the family she'd imagined for herself, if she'd ever allowed herself to imagine one at all, but perhaps exactly the family she needed. Chosen deliberately, built on a foundation of mutual respect and genuine care rather than obligation or expectation. Outside, a late summer storm rolled in, raindrops beginning to pattern against the windows. Amara wrapped herself in the throw blanket Jason had often claimed during their movie nights and settled deeper into the couch. Tomorrow would bring work meetings and investment strategies, reports to analyze and clients to advise. But today, in this moment, she allowed herself to simply be present with the profound gratitude for a missed flight and all that had followed. Sometimes the most meaningful journeys weren't about reaching your intended destination at all, but about discovering an entirely different path, one you never knew you were looking for until the moment you found it. Thanksgiving arrived with a cold snap that painted Atlanta in autumn colors. Amara stood at the airport arrival's gate, a sense of déjà vu washing over her as she watched for Jason among the deplaning passengers. 3 months had passed since she'd stood in this same spot, waving goodbye as he and Robert returned to Seattle. This time, Jason wasn't alone. Behind him walked Robert and a slender woman with Jason's same chin and thoughtful expression, Caroline, his mother. The co-guardianship papers had been finalized in October, and this visit marked their first holiday as what Jason had jokingly dubbed their unconventional family configuration. Amara. Jason broke into a run when he spotted her, wrapping her in a hug that revealed he'd grown another inch since summer. "I missed you so much." "Missed you too," she said, holding him tightly before turning to greet his parents. Caroline extended her hand with a tentative smile. "Thank you for opening your home to us. Jason hasn't stopped talking about you in Atlanta since the summer." "It's my pleasure," Amara replied sincerely. "I'm glad you could join us for the holiday." The drive to Amara's house was filled with Jason's animated updates about his fall semester, the programming club he'd started at his high school, the early college credit courses he'd enrolled in, the plans for his winter internship at the Atlanta gaming studio. "Dad helped me build a new computer setup," he reported proudly. "Custom cooling system and everything. We did it together." Robert, sitting in the front passenger seat, smiled at this. "Turned out I actually enjoy the building process. It's not that different from construction, just smaller scale. And Mom's been helping with the storyline for my new game," Jason continued. "Since she reads all those medical mysteries, she has good ideas about plot twists. It's been enlightening to see his creative process," Caroline added from the back seat. "I never realized how much narrative structure goes into game development." Amara glanced in the rearview mirror, noting the genuine interest in Caroline's expression. The woman's initial emails had been cordial but distant, a medical professional acknowledging the legal arrangement while maintaining emotional boundaries. Now, there seemed to be an opening, a willingness to engage that hadn't been present before. At the house, Amara had prepared Jason's room for him, while the guest room was set up for his parents. Caroline paused in the hallway, studying the family photos Amara had displayed, including several from Jason's summer in Atlanta. "You've created a real home for him here," she observed quietly. "I tried," Amara acknowledged. "He deserves that spaces where he feels completely welcomed and valued." "I haven't always been good at providing that," Caroline admitted, her professional composure slipping slightly. "My career demanded so much, and then the divorce. It was easier to focus on work than to face what was happening to our family. We all have different strengths as caregivers," Amara said carefully. "Jason knows you love him. Does he?" Caroline's question hung in the air between them. "Ask him," Amara suggested gently. "You might be surprised by what he has to say." The Thanksgiving meal that evening brought them all around Amara's dining table, an antique piece she'd purchased specifically for this occasion. The conversation flowed more easily than might have been expected for a group still finding their footing with each other. They discussed Jason's college prospects, Robert's expanding construction business, Caroline's research, and Amara's recent promotion to executive leadership. "A toast," Robert proposed, raising his glass, "to missed flights and found family." "And to new beginnings," Caroline added, her eyes meeting Amara's across the table in a moment of understanding. "And to coming home," Jason finished, looking around at the three adults who, in their different ways, had created spaces for him to belong. Later that evening, while Jason showed his father the latest version of his game on the laptop he'd brought, Amara and Caroline sat on the back deck, bundled in sweaters against the November chill. "I wasn't sure about this arrangement at first," Caroline admitted, cradling a mug of tea between her hands. "It seemed unorthodox. A stranger suddenly becoming so significant in my son's life." "It is unorthodox," Amara acknowledged. "I had the same concerns." "What changed your mind?" Amara considered the question. "I realized that connection doesn't always follow conventional patterns. Sometimes the people we're meant to have in our lives appear in unexpected ways." Caroline nodded slowly. "Jason seems happier than I've seen him in years, more centered, more confident. Both Robert and I have noticed the change." "He's finding his path," Amara said. "All he needed was the space and support to do that." "Space I couldn't provide," Caroline's voice held a hint of regret. "Between my residency and then building my practice, you provided what you could," Amara interrupted gently. "And now he has this expanded support system, more people who care about him, not fewer. That's a gift, not a failure." Inside the house, they could hear Jason's laughter mingling with Robert's deeper voice, a harmony that spoke of healing and connection. "Thank you," Caroline said suddenly, "not just for what you've done for Jason, but for not judging me for what I couldn't do." "We're all just doing our best with the circumstances we have," Amara replied. "What matters is that Jason knows he's loved by all of us in our different ways." The conversation shifted to Jason's college prospects, with Caroline expressing surprise at his interest in potentially staying in Atlanta. "I always assumed he'd want to go as far from both of us as possible," she admitted. "That's what I would have wanted at his age." "He's reconsidering what family means," Amara suggested. "Learning that distance doesn't have to equal disconnection." By the time they rejoined the others inside, something had shifted between them, a subtle realignment that felt like the first steps toward genuine friendship. The weekend passed in a blend of sightseeing, shared meals, and conversations that sometimes stretched late into the night. On Saturday evening, while Caroline and Robert attended a concert downtown, a rare opportunity for them to spend time together without the weight of their past, Amara and Jason sat on the living room floor sorting through his gaming equipment. "How's it been?" Amara asked. "Having both your parents here together?" Weird, but good weird, Jason admitted. They're actually talking to each other, not just about logistics, but like real conversations. Mom asked Dad about his new house renovation, and he asked about her research. That's never happened before. People can grow even after painful histories, Amara observed. Sometimes they just need the right environment. Jason nodded, then asked the question that had clearly been on his mind. Do you think they'll get back together? I don't know, Amara answered honestly. And that shouldn't be your burden to worry about. What matters is that they're finding ways to be your parents together, even while living separate lives. I used to dream about that when they first split up, Jason confessed. That they'd realize they made a mistake and everything would go back to normal. And now I think maybe this is better, he said thoughtfully. Dad's happier, Mom's less stressed, and I have 3 homes instead of one: Seattle, Boston, and here. Amara felt a surge of emotion at the simple way he included her home as one of his. I'm glad you feel that way about being here. It's where I figured out who I really am, Jason said with unusual seriousness. Where someone saw me as more than just the kid who's good with computers or the child of divorce. You've always been more than those labels, Amara assured him. I just had the privilege of witnessing it. Later that night, after his parents had returned from the concert and everyone had retired to their rooms, Amara sat in her office reviewing work emails. A soft knock at the door revealed Jason in pajamas, looking younger than his nearly 17 years. Can't sleep? She asked, setting aside her laptop. He shook his head, settling into the chair across from her desk. Too much thinking. Want to share? When I go back to Seattle after this break, things will be different, he said slowly. Mom's talking about being more involved, maybe coming to visit more often. Dad's already different. And then there's you and this place and everything that happened this summer. Change can be unsettling, Amara acknowledged. Even good change. It's not that, Jason said, struggling to articulate his thoughts. It's like, for the first time, I feel like I have a future I actually want. Not just escaping my parents or proving something, but building something meaningful. And it's because of you, because you missed that flight. I think you would have found your path eventually, Amara said gently, though I'm grateful our paths crossed when they did. The thing is, Jason continued, most people wouldn't have done what you did. They wouldn't have noticed some random kid in an airport, much less missed a flight for them. Why did you? The question hung in the air between them, simple yet profound. Amara had asked herself the same thing many times over the past months. I saw myself in you, she finally said. Not exactly, but that feeling of being alone in a crowd, of having no one to turn to. When I was your age, my mother was working multiple jobs to keep us afloat. There were many times I felt invisible. But you weren't invisible. You made it through. You became successful. I did, Amara nodded. But I always wondered how different things might have been if someone had seen me, really seen me, when I was struggling. That morning in the airport, I had the chance to be that person for someone else. I couldn't walk away. Jason absorbed this, nodding slowly. I want to be that person too, for someone else someday. I believe you will be, Amara said with certainty. That's how healing works. It ripples outward, touching lives beyond our own. After Jason returned to bed, Amara remained in her office, reflecting on the extraordinary journey of the past 9 months. From a chance encounter in an airport to a legally formalized connection that defied conventional family structures, it was a path she never could have anticipated. Her phone buzzed with a text from Alina. The Phillips proposal passed final review. Board meeting next week to discuss implementation. Hope your Thanksgiving family experiment is going well. Amara smiled at her boss's choice of words. Not an experiment anymore, she typed back. Just family. Different than most, but no less real for it. Alina's response came quickly. The best families often are. See you Monday. Setting down her phone, Amara walked through the quiet house, checking that doors were locked and lights were off. From the guest room came the soft sound of Robert's snoring. From Jason's room, silence, hopefully the peaceful sleep of someone who knows they are exactly where they belong. As Amara prepared for bed, she thought about the airport terminal where everything had begun, how close she had come to boarding that flight to Chicago, to maintaining the perfectly structured life she had built for herself. One different choice, and none of this would exist. Yet here she was, her life beautifully, wonderfully complicated by connections she had never planned for but now couldn't imagine living without. The missed flight that had seemed like a career disaster had actually been the first step toward a more meaningful destination, proof that sometimes the most important journeys aren't found on any itinerary, but in the unexpected detours that lead us exactly where we need to be. 3 years later, the Georgia Tech commencement ceremony was reaching its conclusion. the late spring sun casting long shadows across the campus green. Amara sat between Robert and Caroline in the family section, all three of them straining to spot Jason among the sea of graduates in their caps and gowns. "There he is," Caroline whispered, pointing toward the far right of the stage as the computer science graduates began to cross. "Jason Reynolds," the announcer called, and Amara felt a surge of pride as the young man they'd all watched grow and flourish these past 3 years accepted his diploma. So much had changed since that fateful day in the airport. Jason had finished high school in Seattle, then moved permanently to Atlanta for college, living with Amara during the academic year and splitting his summers between his parents. The co-guardianship had evolved as he turned 18, but the connections it had fostered only strengthened with time. Robert had expanded his construction business to include an Atlanta branch, giving him more reasons to visit regularly. Caroline had arranged her medical practice schedule to allow for extended weekends in Atlanta every few months, and Amara had adjusted her career to accommodate this unexpected family that had formed around her, delegating more, working remotely when needed, and discovering that success could be measured in more ways than corporate achievements. As Jason turned to wave toward them, his face alight with accomplishment, Amara caught Robert's eye. They shared a look of mutual understanding, how far they had all come from that first awkward meeting, how deeply their lives had intertwined through their common love for this extraordinary young man. After the ceremony, they found Jason among the crowd of celebrating graduates, his cap slightly askew as he hugged each of them in turn. "Congratulations, son," Robert said, his voice thick with emotion. "I couldn't be prouder." "The first college graduate in our family," Caroline added, straightening his cap with motherly precision. When Jason turned to Amara, words seemed inadequate. The 16-year-old she had found lost in an airport was now a 20-year-old graduate with a bright future ahead of him, already accepted to a master's program and fielding job offers from tech companies impressed by his innovative game designs. "Thank you," he said simply, embracing her, "for everything." Later that evening, they gathered at Amara's house, no longer just her house, but a home that had expanded to embrace all of them in different ways. The backyard was decorated for a graduation celebration, with lights strung between trees and tables set for the friends and family who would be arriving soon. As Robert grilled and Caroline arranged a spectacular charcuterie board, Jason pulled Amara aside to the quiet of the front porch. "I have something for you," he said, handing her a small, wrapped package. Inside was a custom-made keychain with a miniature airplane and a single word engraved beneath it, "Detour." "To remember where it all began," Jason explained. "The best detour anyone ever took." "I'll treasure it," Amara said, running her fingers over the delicate engraving. "Though I hardly need a reminder, that day changed everything." "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd gotten on that flight?" Jason asked. "If you'd gone to Chicago for your meeting instead of helping me?" "Sometimes," Amara admitted. "I might have gotten that promotion a little sooner, might have stayed in my downtown condo, might have continued believing that professional success was the only measure of a life well lived. And I might have kept feeling invisible," Jason said quietly. "Might never have found the confidence to pursue what I really loved, might still be caught between two parents who barely spoke to each other." From the backyard came the sound of laughter, Caroline and Robert sharing some joke as they prepared for the celebration. Their relationship had healed in ways no one could have predicted, not into romantic reconciliation, but into a genuine friendship built on mutual respect and shared purpose. "One moment of choice," Amara mused. "One small decision to see another person's need as more important than my own plans. Who could have imagined where it would lead?" "I've been thinking about that a lot lately," Jason said, leaning against the porch railing. "About choices and consequences, about how kindness can change trajectories." "Any particular reason?" Jason nodded, his expression growing serious. "Remember that internship program at my old high school in Seattle, the one for underserved students interested in tech? The one you helped develop last summer, of course. I've been offered a full-time position directing it after I finish my master's," Jason revealed. "Developing curriculum, mentoring students, creating opportunities for kids who might otherwise fall through the cracks." "That's wonderful," Amara said sincerely. "You'd be perfect for that role." "It would mean moving back to Seattle," Jason pointed out, "at least part of the year." "Ah," Amara understood his hesitation. "You're worried about what that means for all of this." She gestured vaguely toward the house that had become their shared anchor. "This has been my home for 3 years," Jason said. "You've been, well, you know what you've been to me. I don't want to leave that behind." Jason, Amara said gently, home isn't just a place, it's a connection, a belonging. Distance doesn't change that. So you think I should take it? I think you should follow the path that calls to your heart, Amara said, just as I did when I decided not to board that plane. And know that wherever you go, whatever you choose, you have people who love you and support you in Seattle, in Boston, and yes, always here in Atlanta. Even if I'm not here all the time? Even then, Amara assured him. Family doesn't disappear with distance. Real connections remain. Jason's expression lightened, relief evident in his features. I was hoping you'd say that, because I really want to do this to be for other kids what you were for me, to notice them when they feel invisible. There's no greater purpose, Amara said softly, and no distance that could diminish how proud I am of the man you've become. From the backyard, Robert called that the first guests were arriving. As they prepared to rejoin the celebration, Jason paused at the door. You know what's funny? He said. That day in the airport, I thought I was the one who needed saving. Turns out maybe we saved each other. Amara considered this as they walked through the house toward the gathering in the backyard. The boy she had helped had, in his own way, helped her discover depths of connection and purpose she might never have found otherwise. The missed flight that had seemed like a detour had actually been the beginning of her true journey. As they stepped into the backyard filled with friends, colleagues, classmates, and family, both biological and chosen, Amara was struck by the beautiful complexity of it all. How lives could intersect in the most unexpected ways. How small acts of kindness could ripple outward, touching shore after shore. How the most meaningful destinations often weren't found on any map, but in the human connections that made the journey worthwhile. Jason squeezed her hand once before moving to greet his arriving guests, his future bright with possibility and purpose. Amara watched him go, her heart full with the knowledge that some detours weren't detours at all, but the main road disguised as a momentary choice, leading exactly where we were always meant to be. If you enjoyed this story and want to experience more powerful narratives like it, please consider subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us create content that reminds us all of our shared humanity and the power of kindness to change lives. What moment in your life seemed like a detour but turned out to be exactly where you needed to be? Share your story in the comments below. You never know who might find hope in your experience.